Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist. Thank you for tuning in. You are here for Sis, Get Your Foot Off My Neck. This is the part two, and this is for Black women and toxic jobs. So you may have seen the other videos on my YouTube channel in which I have talked about the experiences in which another Black woman has been involved with the toxicity causing some type of harm in the workplace. So I have videos on my YouTube channel about that. I have the part one to this. I have what happens when the workplace bullies one of us. And then I have a series of videos talking about all skin folk and kinfolk. Okay. So we are going to talk about these experiences. And I also want to just frame this conversation. If you can see, I have on my Spelman shirt today. So I'm a proud Spelman alum. And I want to ground this conversation in sisterhood. Okay. And even though we are talking about this issue, it's important for us to talk about things that undermine sisterhood too, right? So we believe in sisterhood. So I want to frame that, okay? But we're also talking about times in which sisterhood goes wrong, okay? And we need to talk about these things because they happen. They're frequent situations that happen. And if we don't talk about it, these things will just continue to happen. And that will really undermine that sense that Black women can trust and rely on and support one another. So we are dispelling that, okay? So we are here again to talk about an experience in which our fabulous guest has experienced a situation in which another Black woman has contributed to toxicity in the workplace, okay? So I'm going to turn it over to my guest for her to introduce herself. And I just heard, everybody, that this is an exclusive interview, okay? So this is the first time that she has shared her story publicly, okay? And I just, again, just want to thank you for doing so, okay? So Dr. Watley, I'll have you introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Kamani, for having me on the show. Just a brief history. Kamani and I met on LinkedIn, and she was, of course, I, like everyone else, follows her, and just the movement around us as women of color becoming free.
Yeah.
And my journey has been within the last year. And so I was just gravitating, and I think I made a post, and then we started a conversation or something like that. So I'm Dr. Watley. I'm a school psychologist by training. I also was a leader in education, a coordinator of psychological services. I've been an executive director. I do leadership coaching. I also do a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work. My dissertation was on implicit bias as a contributing factor to disproportionality of African Americans in special ed. I'm an adjunct professor at Georgia State as well as Anderson University in South Carolina. And I'm also a visiting professor at UGA in their Graduate School of Education. This topic is just so needed. Kamani, the work that you are doing is so needed, it's so valuable. And I hope today my prayer is that folks listen to my story, my journey. It's about a year, literally. Yeah. I'm out, I'm free. And before I got on the show today, I was playing that Freedom song by Beyonce. My daughter and I were dancing around.
Which one?
Freedom, freedom. I was like getting in here. And so
yes.
I feel free again. And I, and we'll talk about how I felt like enslaved almost in a sense to something, and over time just to become more free and more healthier. In my mind, my body, and my spirit.
Yes, thank you. And so many things I want to say about that. Number one is that I do feel that it's been put in my spirit to usher in a movement, particularly for Black women, because our experiences in the workplace many times can be a beat down, and it could be so devastating because you just listed off all your credentials. You're dope, right? All these credentials, all these different things. And think about how many Black women are here and have so many of the credentials, but we're treated like, and I would just say the N-word, right? So it doesn't matter how many credentials you have. So that's the one thing. The second thing I want to say is we have a lot in common because last week was my 1-year liberation anniversary, resigning from a toxic job, right? And that sparked this whole channel, okay? So this channel was sparked by me being in a toxic work environment and me trying to figure out how to heal. but I knew they were trying to silence me at the same time. So my rebellion was, I'm going to get louder. I'm going to talk about it on YouTube, right?
Right.
But the more I've talked about it, Dr. Watley, I am just in awe of how many Black women keep coming to me and telling me about horrific nightmares that they're
Oh my
experiencing in the
gosh.
workplace, right? And so that's why I continue to have these conversations, okay? So, let me just say this too. When you said Beyonce, that's why I said which song, because right after I resigned, okay, because
Mhm.
I had the voice, I heard God talking to me in the shower,
Yeah.
and God said to me, if you stay at that job, it's a death sentence. That same day I resigned, email, effective immediately. I said, you keep all my stuff. I don't want to ever come back there again. That
Amen.
day I did a post on Beyonce's You Won't Break My Soul. Okay.
You just
So
won't.
Beyonce's in the house, okay?
Beyonce is in the house. We might not be in her concert, but Beyonce, you lit us on fire, girl, with that
You're
baby.
liberating us.
You are
Yes,
liberating us. So, and I
yes,
feel free.
yes, 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 yes. So I just wanted to just talk about the parallels. And I'm so glad you talked about how we came to know each other. I mean,
Oh,
it was just
absolutely.
on LinkedIn. And that's what I want to say too. When we're going to talk about some of the challenges, but I want you to be able to see and hear the way that we even met. That was sisterhood, okay?
Absolutely.
Because you didn't have to respond to me, but you did,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So that's sisterhood. I just wanted to have that really ground our conversation. So
Yeah.
Dr. Watley,
Yes.
we're gonna go into the exclusive, okay?
Okay.
You ready? Okay.
I am ready. You gonna hold? I'm holding my hand through it, and I got people out there who are cheering me on. Thank you all for joining. My mom's
Yes.
on there. Hey, mom, I love you.
Hey. Okay, so we're all supporting our sis, okay?
Absolutely.
So can you share as much as you want, okay,
Yeah.
in terms of an experience in which you were in the workplace and another Black woman contributed to the toxicity and caused you harm?
Absolutely. And I first too want to ground my conversation. So I was born in Birmingham, Alabama. My parents were part of the civil rights movement as children and teenagers. And so community means a lot to me.
Yeah.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
Sisterhood, like Girl Scouts. I'm a part of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I'm a part of Junior League. Like I was reared to really believe in supporting Black women and supporting women, even
Mm-hmm.
from a child. And so I had always in my history, you hear about conversations about, oh, how this one Black woman did another Black woman. I've heard about it, like even like
Mm-hmm.
dating situations, you hear,
Mm-hmm.
grumblings and you read about it. But when it sits in your lap, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, now this is something that's I wasn't ready. I don't think anyone could have really prepared me for it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was, going about my business maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. Functioning, I went back. I live in two worlds. I can be a leader or I can function as a psychologist. And I think it's a beautiful thing to those of you out there who have flexibility in careers because
Yes.
that empowers you to be able to say, hey, I've done enough of that. I'm going back to this, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that my mother instilled that in me very early. And my parents said, hey, don't just do one thing, diversify
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
And so someone called me up and said, hey, we have this Black superintendent in this district. You'd be a perfect person to go and support her. She
Hmm.
needs another Black woman to support her.
Hmm. So you're recruited.
Essentially, yeah, by
Okay.
someone that she probably doesn't even know, right? That said, hey,
Wow.
go support your sister, right?
Okay.
So I land on spot. I interviewed. I eventually get the job, and you start off, you think, okay, this thing is going good. And so let's put this in context. A lot of this happened right around the pandemic, too. And so there's a
Mm.
lot going on here in the state of Georgia. We got civil unrest going on. We've
Mm-hmm.
got COVID-19 that's fully ramped
Mm-hmm.
up. There's no
Mm-hmm.
vaccine at this time. My
Mm.
role at that time was over all the student services in the school district. So I'm
Mm.
over discipline. I'm over nurses. I am over
Wow.
social workers. I am over everything that really is like the centerpiece of the
Of
pandemic,
support.
of
Yes.
support for our children. And,
Yes.
and that's and I want people to really hold that because that's going to come 360 back in a minute. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, I've always been a student support services person. Anyone knows me or you can Google me. I'm all about the children. And so it was really important for me to make sure we got our kids back to school and our staff back to school safely. So I had to really double down on partnering with our nursing and things of that nature to make sure we had large scale vaccine drives. And then also I had discipline, and discipline reform has been sweeping, and particularly during that time and still going on, police reform was happening. So when police reform happens, folks, discipline reform tends to follow because they kind of work in tandem. A lot of people don't know that, but if something happens with the police, they're going to look at how do we police in schools. That's just it. And so I had a lot of controversial topics going on, and really, I felt prepared, Kamani, to deal with it, and did very well. And so much that I did very well that the community recognized that in many ways. They celebrated me. The school board, the community was very favor of me, but the more favor I found with the community and with the people, the harder it got for me on the inside. Wow. So what does that look like? For example, I would run before you go to a school board meeting, you run whatever you're going to say at the school board by your superintendent. And I presentations and say, okay, that's good. You go out here, and all school board meetings are televised, guys. So you can go on YouTube and pull up Jillian Watley, and you'll see me present. Sometimes what I found to be the hardest thing was presenting information that she said was okay. And then if backlash comes, because backlash will come, let's just be clear. When you're in a political position, backlash is going to come. It's just how you deal with it. And her way of dealing with it was to ream me out.
What? Wait, you'd already gone over and gotten approval, right? And then when there's negative feedback, she throws you under the bus.
Oh, I was thrown under the bus so many times, which is what happened in the case that I'll be talking about. And so I felt this since, like, at first you're like, woo, when something like that happens, you're like, wait a minute. Am I crazy? Yeah. And then after a case happened, you're like, what? One thing I know for sure, I ain't crazy. Okay. Right. I know when somebody's gaslighting me. But okay, sis, you different. And I'll never forget one day she told me, because again, another crucial topic that sat with me was equity. And you want, I'm following your lead with you telling me as my supervisor what you want me to do as it relates to equity. We make a movement on it, then, you would criticize. So I remember the day that I said to her, listen, if you don't want to do equity, that's fine. And until you want to do equity, I won't. Because what I'm not going to do is keep stepping out and standing up, because this is what I believe in, and I know it's right for children. Yeah. But then when backlash comes, then I get thrown under the bus. I can't keep doing that. That's too stressful.
I'm sorry. I got to interrupt. This is a Black woman.
Yes, ma'am.
Supervisor, right? Superintendent of schools.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about equity, and she wasn't behind doing stuff for equity?
No,
She's
ma'am.
a Black woman?
No, ma'am.
Wow. That says a lot right there.
Well, because all skin folk ain't kin folks. And some people, they have a lot of talk. They'll say these words, but now we got to do what's in the action. Right? Exactly. So when we talk about equity, we got to start disrupting systems that oppress, right? Absolutely. And so to disrupt the system means that we may make people feel uncomfortable. And some of us don't like to make white people feel uncomfortable. Yes. And so I've become very okay with the fact that if that's who you are, we just can't work together.
Yeah. And like you just talked about, are you walking the talk? Because there's no way you could talk about equity without talking about white supremacy, anti-racist acts. There's no way. And you can't just deal with equity and not deal with the systems, the structures, the levels of accountability. You playing in my face, basically, right?
Absolutely.
So you were like, okay, so I see she's centering the comfort of other people over the equity of children, which is disturbing, right?
Absolutely.
And let me just say this too, and I think it's different too, because you're in the South, right?
Yeah.
But also when we think about just demographics around the country, that the experiences that I've had, I've had of other people, of other Black women, it's not necessarily other Black people or white people. it is other people, right? So it's just people who engage in white supremacist behaviors, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, okay. But centering those people and not wanting to rock the boat, basically.
absolutely.
Okay. I'm sorry, I had to interrupt that. Okay. Thank
No,
you.
you're perfectly fine, and you're so spot on. And so, I what I came to realize with this person is our psychologies and how we were raised was very different. And it came
Mm,
to me one day when I was in a one-on-one meeting, and she says to me, Jillian, we have to work twice as hard than white people. And so I didn't grow up with that as a conversation.
mhm,
I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, the home of the
mm,
civil rights. I don't care what nobody
mhm,
say. That was called Birmingham. Okay. My
wow.
mother was friends with one of the four little girls who died. My dad
Wow.
integrated schools. So my mindset was not set up to think that white people were better than me. In fact,
Yes.
I grew up believing in Black excellence.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so when she said that to me, it it really level set it for me. Like, okay, I'm dealing with a different type. Like,
Mm,
Jill, you're
mhm,
not dealing with what you're accustomed to dealing with. You're dealing with
mhm.
something different. And so
Yeah.
now you've got to change how you have conversation with this woman
Yeah.
because she don't even know herself, right? You've made
Yeah.
it this far in leadership and you have a title, but you're not leading. You're just managing and you're just keeping the status quo. And
Yes.
here I am where I'm used to and have been accustomed to being around people who are much more progressive and who
Mm,
have been accustomed to disrupting systems to benefit those who have not benefited at all.
yes.
So, of course, now it's gonna be a problem.
Mhm.
Like, I'm very clear we're gonna have a problem because I cannot put a politics on the backs of children, particularly those who are marginalized. I will not
Absolutely
do
right.
that,
Right.
and
I'm
I
not
can't do.
co-signing with this. I'm not going to be
I'm not
complicit with
co-signing with
this.
it. So
Mm-mm.
there's some things I had to pivot on, and I'm so grateful to good mentorship and
Mm,
people who were in my my corner
yeah.
who were able to guide me through this whole situation, like former superintendents who were Black and who were like, hey, Jill, you're not crazy.
Reality testing.
Yeah,
Yes.
you got to have people. One of my friends always says, you can have the cabinet, but you got to have the kitchen cabinet, the people who are going to tell you the truth. So I
Yes.
don't think she ever knew that I had like a million people watching school board meetings.
Mm.
So I then enlisted my own cabinet who
Mm-hmm.
helped me strategize how to deal with her.
Okay. So she threw you under the bus. She was not supportive. She was not about equity. And
No,
so when the good thing I think for many of us as Black people in the workplace, we can peep stuff, right? Like, that wasn't right. What was that about? Right. And we have to pivot. So
yes.
when you pivoted, did she recognize that you pivoted? How did she then respond to you?
Well, I always felt like it was the onus on me to make things happen with
Mm,
no resources or support.
mm,
And so, what I know about leadership is that it's my responsibility to provide my directors, my people who are reporting up to me with the resources to be successful. Anyone who has
sure.
led or been under my leadership knows that I am very much people first. But what I did realize is that she didn't operate from that manner. And so um, there was a lot of criticism. And so I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
One of the departments I assumed was registration.
Mm-hmm.
Registration in any school district is hard.
Mm-hmm.
I tip my hat off to those who do it every day. I had never supervised registration. I got it probably in June of school year. And I had to pivot quickly to manage that division that I found to be very broken historically.
Hmm.
And so we did the best we could. But I took the brunt from her because they felt like registration didn't go well. Well, it went as good. We got the kids registered, Kamani,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
With
mhm,
the resources they had and had been operating with for years before I even got here.
mhm,
I
mhm.
assumed the registration department in June of that year
For the
when we,
upcoming school year?
yes, for the
Oh my
upcoming year.
gosh.
So,
Wow.
so come on, people. if that was not that, are you setting me up for failure? Then are you setting my staff up for failure, right? And they have always felt, which I came to know and didn't know this, that they always felt like they had been set up for failure.
Oh.
And so,
set up for failure.
just intentionally.
Oh.
So there was lack of support, poor planning. No one wanted. They always felt. This is what they told me when I got, to understand the department. They felt like stepchildren. So again, there we have a culture and a climate issue, right? Nobody had ever addressed. This has been his history of feeling that way, history of systems that were broken. And yet you throw me in here and then I get the criticism for everything that and you were here before me. So y'all know it was, we did the same thing that was done the years before.
Right.
Amen.
Right. Right.
Like, I've never been a registrar before a day in my life. They've done what they knew. You threw it in my lap. Now we improved it as time went on, but it was almost like we created that. And I had to push back and say, did you not give this to me in June and school opens in August? Wow. So what's your onus in this, right? And that was the problem where, see, people don't like intellectually smart people, right? They want people that go along. And so I pushed back. And so then more I pushed back, then you really begin to get a target on your back. The other thing was that the school board was really recognizing my efforts because I came in and revisited a lot of the school board policies that were inequitable for our children. So the policies that fell within my purview, which are called the J policies, I put together a team, board members and my staff, to rewrite approximately 30-something J policies for children.
Wow.
Some of these policies had never been revisited and from the 70s or the 80s.
Wow.
And then here we are in 2020. So you can imagine what I was seeing, right? It was very clear that certain people didn't want to work with me to get that done. And some of those people were folks that the school board wanted them to come under my division. So there were a crew, and I'm not going to mention their titles or anything, right, but there were like two divisions that they wanted to come under me. And that would have been fine because it would have aligned with student support work. They didn't want to. So now, they didn't want to. And they were two white women.
They didn't want to. Okay. How can they say they don't want to? That's part of their job, isn't it?
You would think. I've never heard where people have a choice in where they go. But again,
I'm just not going to do that. You want me to do that, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. And then this coming from the school board, and I'm really not going to do it. So my superintendent is also going to allow me not to do it.
Wow.
And y'all white. So, and then here you are, they want you to report to the Black woman, which let's take race off the table. If we're here to do what's best for children and to align the work, it made sense for these two divisions to be under me with the other work that I had. So it could all be seen for children. Right.
So she didn't stand behind, she didn't have your back. Like, no, you are going to work with her. It was like, okay, you don't have to.
No, ma'am.
Oh.
No, ma'am. So as the board began to press this issue, not only is this documented via YouTube channels and things of that nature, because everything is televised, the board would continue to ask those questions about why isn't this group of people under Dr. Watley? I would just sit at the board meeting like, well, honey, if they only knew.
Right.
So in summer of 2020, I went on vacation. And while I was on vacation, I came back to what has now changed my life. So I'll tell that brief story right now. When I came back, the investigator in HR, as well as my superintendent, questioned me about an email I received. And the email I received was pretty much about a student at a school who I think he was running around naked. He's a special needs student. He has autism, so that's not as atypical as it may sound for those of us who work in education or who have backgrounds in mental health. And so it was kind of out of the norm for me to receive an email like that because of where I sat in the organizational chart, because my directors would usually handle that. I don't usually handle that. So I kind of deferred it to my director. And that was before I left for vacation.
Okay.
When I came back from vacation, I was called into the superintendent's office and notified that while on vacation, they had submitted a warning to the PSC, which is called the Professional Standards Commission, that gives you your certification in the state.
What, the state commission?
Yes, for mandatory reporting. I didn't report this child, and then for also dishonesty.
Wait, they contacted the state commission before they even talked to you.
Yes, that's what came out in court. So we'll get to the court piece. So it's almost
wow.
So when you talk about how people can put things against you and set wheels in motion, I am definitely a witness to it. I am a victim of it. And I always felt, I remember that day sitting in my superintendent's office, and when the investigator, who was also a white woman, has been implicated in other cases of being unethical with investigations in the school district when it comes down to people of color. When I hear this, I'm saying to myself, something's not making sense here. First of all, anyone who knows it, according to the law, mandatory reporting is a local school function. I report to the superintendent. There is a million people that come before me before a mandatory report. Anybody in the school district knows that, which came out in court because the organizational chart was actually shown in court, and the judge was like, "Where are all these people then?"
Right. Like, not only but we're gonna report her to the state.
Right, and then we're going to report her to state and put an investigation and a warning on her certification, which could possibly be fired. Absolutely. Let that sink in, Kamani.
Wow. Okay. So you're sitting there like, I can't believe this.
And that very night, I had to go before the school board to talk about vaccine drives and my mental health clinic. Student health clinic, and how I'm talking about things that's the work of the children, the work of the people. Meanwhile, in the backdrop, I'm dealing with crazy stuff.
Yeah, and you're under attack now. You're under attack, and your whole professional credibility is at stake, right? But then you still have to do your job.
Yes,
wow.
Ma'am.
Oh my God.
Yes, ma'am. And so after that, I did tell them in the meeting before I left to go to my office to prepare for the school board meeting, because that's the work of the district. And that's the work that we should be focused on, the right work, right? But in such a time like this, we are focused on taking a Black woman down. That's it, point blank. That's what it is.
That's the priority here.
And that's the priority. That's the order of business for today under the leadership of a Black woman. Because she could have stopped that.
Right.
She could have said, this is nonsense.
Right.
Because she's the superintendent. She could have stopped it. And she didn't. So I go on and I was like, okay. So I talked to my attorney. He was like, Jill, you have a case. Said, listen, I'm going to
can I ask you something, Dr. So, but you still went to the school district. You still went to the school board and still performed.
Yes, ma'am. You're asking me
that's what I'm talking about.
You're asking me
Black women that we are holding all this stress. And we still do our job to a very high level. I just had to emphasize that. You still knocked it out. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I knocked it out the park, and anybody can go to YouTube and see it. It's documented. And went on with my job. I did put them on notice that I would be contacting my attorney. So the wheels of justice are slow. You know, I tell people, like, you don't get an attorney and then y'all go to court or a hearing the next day. So the hearing was scheduled for let me see, what year is it? November 2022. So I just had my hearing and was fully exonerated of any of the time.
All that time?
All that time passed. And so it's interesting you asked me these questions, because the judge, when she brought me back to the stand, and I'll talk about what happened, some things that came out in open records that we were able to see that kind of drove the nail. I think in this case, the judge, she said, Dr. Watley, after all this, you still persevered. She said, you still, she was really like amazed, because some of the testimony that was crushing in this trial or this hearing, which it really was clear to me, Kamani, they were trying to set me up. Like
Wow.
anybody, Ray Charles could see it. So for example,
Wow.
and you know, it does something to you. It really does. And for people who think it doesn't, it changes you.
Absolutely.
But
It's
one
a
thing
trauma. It's traumatic.
it's traumatic.
Yeah.
One thing I'm clear about is I will never go back to that. But the things the judge asked me, she said, "What do you think about the testimonies today?" And I think she needed to hear from me because I don't know. I know she was fair. It was clear that people were trying to contrive stuff. So during the testimony, the investigator, go with me here, was hinging the case on a text message I received. I still have that text message. The text message says from another person, remember that person that the board wanted to go on to me, Dr. Watley, call me when you get a chance. In court, the investigator said, well, Dr. Watley received a text message that said it is emergency, that she that she must call such and such so that because they have a case at school going on or something like that. It's like emergency, that's the word. And so my attorney said, well, let's read the text message for the court. Let's document it. It said just what I said. The judge then asked the question, Miss So-and-so, have you ever seen the text message? Do you know what her answer was?
Don't tell me she didn't see the text message.
No.
Wow.
You got me up here in a dadgum hearing for something that you as an investigator have never, you are the investigator.
You didn't see the text and you're trying to ruin my career. You didn't see the text.
You didn't even see this.
Wow. Oh my God. So you're sitting there.
I'm sitting in court. I mean, the look on everybody's face is like, these people are clearly trying to ring this girl.
Yes.
I mean, I still to this day can't even, I sometimes can't even process the fact that 2 years went that you never saw the text message. Then the second thing that was really impactful that came out during the open records, listen to this, people. They only interviewed the white people involved in this mandatory reporting. They interviewed none of the Black people. My attorney, but look at this. Like completely omitted.
Wow.
Thank you, Mom. My mom just brought me a tissue because she's watching.
Oh my God. They only interviewed the white people. Woo. Wait, are we not? We just talked about equity stuff, right? But they're not even interviewing the white people. Okay, I mean the Black people. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Crazy.
My attorney, who's a white man, said they were trying to really ream you, Dr. Watley, and he's white.
Wow.
He said, if this is not a classic case, oh my God, I'm so glad you have fight in you, right?
Yes.
He said, because if you had just went with, oh, they're going to put a warning on your PSC. No, you're not going to put a warning on my PSC for something that I know I don't have responsibility to do.
Exactly.
And two, that I know that y'all. Then the third thing that really got me was seeing the actual complaint. Because when you get open records, folks, you get to see it all. They pull everything. And I saw, I knew it. I always knew my superintendent signed off on it. But it's something different when you see it. You see me saying? And I hope people feel me. Like when I saw her signature, I always knew it. I mean, mind you, 2 years have passed. I always knew it. So I've been working with this lady for 2 years past, you know, knowing that this case is coming, right? So I know you had the ultimate decision to do this. You gave them carte blanche.
You gave them the green light.
You gave them the green light.
Yeah. Like you co-signed with it.
You did. And I have the evidence to prove it.
Wow.
And it was interesting because the behavior white privilege shows up in so many ways. And the investigator, she showed who she was in court. Sometimes
Besides being incompetent and a liar.
Right.
Besides
that, the other piece is the Black lady that was the attorney for or the Professional Standards Commission. She was essentially cross-examining. If anybody's been to court, you kind of know you respect and yield to authority. If they say, hold on, do what they're. And so the Black attorney was questioning her and essentially telling her to, like I think she said, was essentially saying, don't answer the question that my attorney asked. This is what this white lady said. She told the attorney for the PSC that she reported me to, no, I'm going to answer this question.
Oh, wait a minute. You talk about entitlement. So you had the two who said they weren't going to work with you. And then we got this one at a hearing said, no, I'm going to answer this question. Wow.
Oh, yeah, at the hearing. And then the other piece with the investigator that was even more crazy. Kamani, is this not Lifetime movie? Right. I can't make this up. This is what your girl
ridiculous. You gotta laugh at it. It's so outrageous.
It's crazy. I'm sitting here looking at this. This person, my attorney, then brings out state law and school board policy, which says what's supposed to happen. State law. Go ahead. He says, Ms. So-and-so, you are the investigator. Are you familiar with J policy XYZ? Are you familiar with these? They're asking you because you're the school district investigator.
Right.
You're an HR official. You should be familiar with the policy. Oh, we don't follow those.
But you weren't familiar with them.
Oh, no. Girl, you could have.
Oh, my God.
Honey, and y'all, I got a fan because, honey, this is like, I think I was just like having an out-of-body experience.
Like, is this really happening?
Is this really happening? Am I sitting here in this hearing with the judge, all the court regalia, listening to this woman say she's disregarding the policies of the district as an HR official? And I'm sitting here because I'm the one that supposedly have done something wrong? Are you kidding me?
Wait, can I ask you something? Your superintendent was in court, right?
No, ma'am. She had retired at this time.
Oh.
Because I split my teeth.
Wow. Okay. Can I ask you something else too? Because people have asked me this. I know I considered this because I used to work for a school district as well. I thought about legal recourse, but I was like, man, it's going to take a whole bunch of time and all that kind of stress. How did you decide, or what was your thought process in terms of getting an attorney and following up on this?
For me, it was just not right. And anyone who knows me, and I'll say this, guys, I had a lot of witnesses that came to testify in the Metro Atlanta area who had worked with me. We had so many witnesses and people even in the district who testified about my character. I've been told I'm kind of black and white. Look, it is what it is. And so for me, I have a very strong constitution. I was not going to let that go. You are not going to say I did something and I know I didn't do it. And so I was going to fight. I just knew within myself. And so I pulled the cord. I remember the moment it left my mouth in that office that you all would hear from my attorney, it was a real thing. Like I was not going to backpedal from that. My parents didn't go through what they went through in the 60s for me to sit up here and cower to you. I will not. So they said that when the folks that were out there at the PSC who were witnesses, the almost 20 people, and the people they had to turn away because they said Dr. Watley has enough witnesses about his. They said when those two white women came to court that day, you could have bought them with a penny. They didn't know all those people were going to be there.
Wow.
And they thought, it got back to me that they even said, Kamani, they were speaking so boldly, we're going to take her down. These are the words they were telling people. We're going to take her down.
Wait a minute. Okay. Let's think about this too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let's just put it all in context. You are in the South. Yeah. There's two women who don't look like us saying they're going to take you down. Yeah. And there's a Black woman who signs off on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. And let me say this too. the part about you saying, and you're like, you're not going to beat me down. I'm going to advocate for this. I'm going to speak up. I think,
Absolutely.
and I just want to say this to Black women who are watching this. There are multiple ways you can speak up, right?
That's right.
So you can take legal recourse. You
Mhm.
can, for a YouTube channel like me, you can do other things. But I think what we're saying too is that when you know what you're working with, when you know all your talents and your all these things about you, and you were raised with family who uplifted you,
Yeah,
that serves like some psychological armor to
it
all this
does.
nonsense, right?
Absolutely.
So that's why it's so important to have a positive view of yourself and a good community who are pouring into you, right?
Absolutely. Oh
Yes.
my God, Kamani, the community that came together. My attorney said he never seen that many people just say, yes, I will testify to her character, her work ethic, who she is as a person. He said he had to cut the list off, otherwise we would probably still
Wow.
be there today.
Wow.
He was
We
like,
had that many
Jillian,
people.
he was like, Jillian, I had to say thank you, but no thank you. He's like, I got enough. I'm like, in research, we say we're saturated. We're
Right.
saturated, And so I was glad with that. And so the during the court hearing, they had me up there in the beginning, and then at the end of the day, the judge brought me back to um the jury to testifying box. And the judge asked me similar questions to what you asked me, Kamani, like, Dr. Watley, what stuck out to you today? She was, I think, genuinely concerned about, like,
Wow.
this is
What a blessing you had a good judge.
Yeah, she was like, I think she felt some kind of way. I can assume, but her questions made me think that. She said, how has this now, because this is your second question here, how did it affect you?
Yeah. Yes.
And so she wanted to know.
Judge, yes. So the judge was open, right? Was able to hear the stuff, saw all the ridiculous stuff going on, saw the holes in the story, right?
Yep.
And she seemed really concerned about you and how it impacted you.
Yeah,
so, Dr. Watley, how did it impact you? I mean, because you said that this is like 2 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it showed up. And that's the thing where that was the rubber met the road for me, June of 2022. For me, I had a panic attack. I didn't want to go to work.
Oh.
I've never had a panic attack before. I like the work I do. And then second, I started to just have feminine issues. My doctor feels like the feminine issues were accelerated by the stress of that job, which
Absolutely.
After I was telling the judge, because that was November 2022. So in December, I was prepping. I told her on the stand, I said, I will be having a surgery as a result of this, because of the stress in December, and I said, and then I also, during that time, this time last year, my father's health changed. We had to put him in a facility. So the stress of just dealing with that, it became unbearable. Like I just could not deal with it anymore. And it was starting to mess with my digestive system. I had an accident one day, like if these things are real, this is my real life. And I was like, so I felt like if I had stayed at that job, I would have been an ivy beyond the wall, what we call it, my sorority. I was determined to stay here for my kids.
Dr. Watley, I need you to pause right now. First, it's a lot that you're sharing in terms of what you're going through, right? And so I just want to give honor to that. And I want us to just take a moment because it's a lot. Okay. And you are sharing about just significant toll that it had on you. And I want people to understand that these jobs can be traumatic, not only in terms of what we're going through in a day-to-day, but you're talking about what you went through physically, psychologically. And you also said something, and I don't know if people caught it, but I think I caught it. You said something about what could possibly happen to you. And I think people miss that. I think that people miss that, right? You said
Yeah.
an Ivy. Say that again.
So in Alpha Kappa Alpha, we call them when you pass on and when you die, you're Ivy beyond the wall. You die. And I was committed to not being Ivy beyond the wall at this moment in my life. And I resigned.
Wow.
My life meant more. And the job I have now, they were recruiting me all along. And I remember I called one of my colleagues and he said, Jill, if you don't take that job, I'm going to question your doctorate. He said, I hope he's watching because he said some choice words to me too. And I was like,
some real talk words.
Right. It was some real talk. It was definitely not as nice as I said it. Yes. And I was like, let me get myself out of here because I have an 11-year-old daughter that I care very deeply about. So while I may care about the children in this district and want to do the good work, I care about myself. I love myself. I would not, my mother and my father would not treat me like this. My friends and my family do not treat me like this.
Yes.
My community doesn't treat me like this. Why would I continue to allow this person to treat me like this? Exactly. You can have this job. I am gone.
Yeah.
And I was done. And I haven't looked back ever since. And people have called me. I promise you, Kamani, like people call me because at that point in my career, I was being essentially kind of groomed to be a superintendent when you're going on that trajectory. And it changed my entire life. And I know it's, even though it was a bad storm, right? I did great work there in that storm. But then you also have to remember to do great work for yourself. And that's the most important part. And I tell people, and I was speaking at a conference last week, we have to know when it's time to sunset a thing.
Yes.
And you can't wait till it gets too bad before you do it.
No. And your body starts telling you it's too much, right? And many times we just keep going on. That's one thing. The second thing is, yes, we love our work. We're committed to our work, particularly when we work with kids. I felt the same way. We are committed to the work.
Yeah.
But when the job starts harming you and could potentially take you away from your family, literally, and cause you to lose your life, at that point, it's like, it's not even worth it. And it's hard to walk away. Just like I heard you say, it was hard for me to walk away, but I knew I had to. I love the kids, but I love my kids more, right? So I couldn't be with that, right? But it's a hard choice. But you're saying the importance of centering yourself.
Absolutely.
And being okay with that. Can you speak to that? Because I think a lot of Black women, we are caught into this thing. I got to stay. You're not going to run me out of here. I'm going to show her. All these things, right? I'm going to say to retirement, all these things, right? What would you say to a Black woman who is watching this right now and she is saying some version of that?
Do you love yourself?
Ooh.
Do you believe that God promised never to leave you or forsake you?
Ooh.
Do you believe that you are the head and not the tail? And that just like you invested in one retirement, you can also invest in another.
Yes.
Do you know that money can move? Some of us are stuck in these jobs because we're trying to get to a retirement that we probably will never see.
Yes. Because the job will kill you first or beat you down.
Yeah. Let me tell you a situation that happened when I was in a former district. I used to be over crisis. That was one of my roles. And I remember a teacher died at a Kronos machine. She was clocking in and she had a massive heart attack and died.
No way.
And when I went and my team, we talked to some of her colleagues. They said in the weeks prior, she had been very stressed about her job. That story, it's almost like God brought that story back to me last year and said, this could be you.
Yeah.
Bump retirement, you might not be here to enjoy it. It's a lot of people who have left retirement on them, like literally, they are not here to enjoy it because they dealt with stress for over time. And then we have to remember, as Black people, we're just twice times, maybe 3 times more likely because of the traumas from generations before.
Yeah.
And so we're carrying that, then we're layering all of this other trauma on top of it in these workspaces. We got to be careful. The other thing I would say to women, especially women of color, we do too much.
Yeah.
We carry too many heavy loads and burdens that we just don't have to carry. And we've got to do a better job at saying no and being intentional about what we say yes to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's okay to
It's
center
okay.
ourselves. And would God want you to live a life in which somebody is terrorizing you? You know what I'm saying? And it's just reprioritizing your life, which is so important, even though it's hard, right? And also recognizing that you deserve better. And like you said, you can work somebody else. You can work somewhere else. That's not the only place that you can work, right?
It's not.
So, yes. So, Dr. Watley, are you able to share the outcome of the hearing?
Absolutely. It's a done deal. I was fully exonerated. The judge, we didn't think the judge was going to finish with the case writing up her brief, which was, y'all, really long. I mean, this judge is like thorough. She took like copious notes. So we didn't think she would be finished until like March or April. I got an email, I believe the first or second week in January.
Wow.
So she was on it. Yeah. Something shook her and she worked on that. My attorney and I kind of surmised that she worked on it during the Christmas break.
Yes. So you said that you did end up resigning, right?
Who?
You resigned from the job, right?
I resigned.
Okay. Yes. And when did you resign? Was it before the hearing? When did you resign?
The hearing was in November. December 2022, somewhere November 2022. I'm sorry, because I had my surgery in December. I resigned in August of 2022. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
And I resigned not knowing that the hearing was coming soon.
Wow.
So because again, I had waited for 2 years, so I thought I was going to be waiting because and so I just become accustomed just waiting, and so but I had gotten to the point where I didn't want to work for them anymore. And so then it just literally my life changed over the next couple of months. It was like boom, boom, boom.
So it was like a build up, and then you were like, I gotta go, right? So the build up, as you were getting to the build up, and you kind of tell like, this is not for me, this is harming me. Was there a level of fear involved in that too, of leaving?
I think the fear was more about staying because I thought that I was going to get worse and I probably was going to get really sick. So the fear. And then at the same time, God is so amazing how he works. Like I was being recruited by the company that I'm working for now. I had an interview. I was kind of scared about leaving traditional and going into like corporate. So I was a little bit like hesitant. And then that friend of mine had that conversation with me.
The real talk conversation.
Girl, right? And I was like, yes, sir, I will do it immediately. And so I that did not last very long because again, the greater fear was me not living a life and then being taken prematurely from my child. That was the greatest fear. And so I always knew I could land on my feet because I trust God. I do. And I believe that he has, promised to never leave me. He is guiding me. And through and the judge was really curious about just how I stayed through all of this. Like I think
she persevered and excelled.
And excelled because it's not like I'm talking about it. It's documented because it's televised and these things are in the news because I had to sometimes speak to the news. So I had to keep going, but it became too much of a burden for me to carry. And when I started to see the signs, that panic attack, crying in my mother's arms, saying I don't want to go to work. Like she never seen me like that. Just the digestive issues, all of that was like anxiety. And then a little bit of depression was starting to form. And I was like, I got to get out of here. And so,
And the part you talked about your mother, right? That, Dr. Nadia Lopez talks about it in terms of how a toxic job impacts not only us, but the people who care about us because they see us. and it makes them feel helpless and hopeless too, and they're feeling the trauma. And so again, when we're in these situations, it's not just us that's impacted, right? And it's something else you said, Dr. Watley.
Yeah.
So just parts of your story just really resonate with my story.
Mhm.
And the part about faith, the faith of knowing that you will be delivered out of there. And in fact, my therapist said to me, and I think she's here today, my therapist, who's a Black woman therapist, said to me, that situation that you went through was a rescue mission from God. God was delivering you from that because you were going to die, okay? And God had a bigger plan for you. So you were promoted, you were elevated, but if you stayed there, you would have been closed, right?
Absolutely.
So for you were going through this stuff, but you were like, okay, I'm open to what God is revealing to me.
Right.
And the same thing for me. I was like, okay, I can't take this anymore. I get it, God. I get the sign. I get what you're saying to me. I'm open. And so that's what we're saying to women now who are watching this right now. Be open and recognize when the signs are telling you that the job is harming you, and be open and be ready to start exploring your other options and have a good community, right? So Dr. Watley, can you share a little bit about what was your healing journey, or what has been your healing journey? Because I know for me, I'm still healing. Okay.
Me too.
So just a year later, I'm still healing. What has been your healing journey like, and what has helped you in your healing journey?
Right. Woo. I have a therapist, Dr. Camp Psychological in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much. You have definitely been a blessing, a safe space for me. I have the best family, the best friends I could ever ask for.
Yes.
Yes. The prayers, and I know there are people out there who watching who probably crying right now. My mother has cried with me a lot. She cried today, just even before the show, because it has really bothered her. Because the people around you, they carry the burden.
Yes.
And you gotta release that from them too. And so that is, I'm still healing. And so, but I'm much better than I was last year. The therapy has helped. Recentering my relationship with God. I was so consumed with that job, and now I have more space to talk to God. And just, I remember, now I'm working from home and I travel. Like, I remember one day dropping my daughter to school and just coming home and being able to just sit and look at this tree in my yard. I never had an opportunity to do that because I was always like working. And then for my daughter to be glad that I'm not working that job. Like, the feedback. I actually had a friend come to me at a dinner thing a couple months ago, and her face was wet, Kamani. She was like, Jill, I'm so glad you're not at that job anymore.
Wow.
I was internally worried about you. And she said, it hit me up. And you don't know who's watching and holding. And they're scared to say something because they know it looks good. Some of these jobs, they look really great. You're in the newspaper, you look cute, you're on TV, you're doing all this stuff, but
you're dying inside.
But you're dying inside, and other people see it, and you see it, but you're moving. You just keep going. And so, to your point, the folks around you are affected. And so over time, like, I am so happy to now be in this space where my friends are like, we're happy for you. Like, I don't think my friends and family liked my job. My daughter, she was very vocal. She hated my job. She was like, I hate your job. I don't like your job. And so I'm in a much healthier space. And so the healing is going to take time, because I think for me, I had to really kind of understand like how a Black woman could do another Black woman like that and allow white people to do that. That is where my therapist is working with me right now, because I never had that. And I heard about it, but I've always been protected, I felt, right? Because in my community and the people, we're like, I'm like, girl, you do your thing. Like, Kamani, when I see you on LinkedIn, I'm like, yes, do it. Liberate us, free us. I have always created platforms for women of color, like if I got something, you got it too.
Yeah.
So to have someone to allow them, those people
Yes.
that have always done things to us, to
Yes.
like set me up and let them
Yes.
just come at me like that,
Yes.
that's a different feeling. And it takes
Oh man,
time.
it takes the pain to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Right?
It takes
And
time.
oh my God, it's devastating. And I think that's why so many Black women are coming forward and talking about it. It's one thing that you have to go through this, but when
Yeah.
another Black woman is involved, it is just, oh my God, because you know that she knows how hard it is just to live in a society, right? You know that she knows how hard it was to even get that job. And then she's going to still to choose to do that. So that takes it to a whole nother level. And when you talk, yeah, go on.
Oh my God, Kamani, you spree. Oh my goodness. I hate to cut you off, but I gotta say something to that because someone sent me an article that she was recently interviewed, maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, talking about the struggle she had as a Black woman in leadership and her mental health and physical issues and stuff. And I'm saying to myself, and me and these other, because I'm not the only one who
she terrorized.
Yeah, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
There are countless others.
Yeah.
And so when I read this, because another colleague just sent it to me and said, look at this, I'm saying to myself, if you knew that you went through this, then how could you treat us like this? Like, I don't get it.
and see, let me say this. Because, okay, I've experienced issues not only by Black women. The person who terrorized me most was not a Black woman. But when we think about sisterhood, I think you have the same similar experience, right?
Yeah.
Spelman, your sorority, your community, all these things, right? So you believe in sisterhood. So when you see another Black woman, you're like, hey girl, hey sis, right? We're trying to work together. How can I uplift you? How can I help you? And when somebody stabs you in the back, another Black woman stabs you in the back, that is like, what? Like, what is happening? Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? First of all, it's not help you get nowhere anyway, because whatever's happening to you is going to come back to you. The other thing is, are you that insecure that you would try to take me down?
Yeah.
For what? Yeah. You are not going, it's not going to benefit you at all.
That's right.
Oh my God. So many things. So when you talked about the healing and you talked about part of the challenge, and I had to work through this too. And Dr. Watley, part of my issue too is that I think because I believe in sisterhood so much that I have given people chances or overlooked things when maybe I shouldn't have, right? Because I'm trying to give them another chance, another opportunity, and it comes and bites you in the butt sometimes, right?
That's
But
right.
the problem, I think that what I'm hearing from both of us in terms of experience is, why would they do that? Why would they do that, right? So we sit up there trying to figure out what, I don't get it. Why would you do it, right? And I have to finally say, you know what? I will never know why.
I'll never know.
And I don't really need to know why. All I need to know that this person is deeply insecure.
That's
okay.
Right.
They don't need to be in my life. That's all I need to know. Okay. And then we got to just move on. I cannot be around you, cannot be in my space.
Exactly.
I hope you get your own therapy, basically, right? Yes. So when you talked about, healing is a journey, and I've been very clear with everyone when I talk on my YouTube channel that I'm a toxic job survivor. I'm so much better now that I've left that job. Yeah. But part of it too is, and this is something I'm still working on, Dr. Watley. I don't know if you are too.
Yeah.
I have to work on the self-forgiveness. So I forgive myself for being in that toxic job and letting those people treat me like that for that long. Okay. Yeah. So the self-forgiveness needs to happen too, because even after you've left the job, you're not just all happy and stuff, right? There's still a lot of stuff there. There's grief. There's a lot of other stuff, betrayal, all these different things, right? So as we're winding down, what is it that you would like to share with Black women who are watching us right now?
Oh boy. Gosh, y'all, we go through so much. Like, I think we're just so much better together, but then there are always going to be people who just don't have the same backgrounds that some of us share. Like, we're unique.
Yeah.
Going to Spelman really is a unique experience. And that's why I really encourage people to send their children to like HBCUs, because this person didn't go and have that experience and grew up in a situation where Blacks were oppressed. So that's a part of her psychology. And
Yeah.
so I think we have to understand that the experiences really do matter in how it shapes how we see each other.
Absolutely.
And we have to be very intentional as parents when we're helping our children form those types of bonds and have those experiences as they grow. It's more than just getting straight A's. No, you want to really look at how your child, your young girl, is forming relationships, and you need to coach her in that. You need to put them in Girl Scouts. You need to make sure that that's where it starts, because it's a coaching that happens along the way. It doesn't just happen with a degree, right?
No.
It just doesn't. And so what I've come to realize, and even unpacking in therapy, is that her experiences were very different in her formative years than mine. And so for us as women, we have to be very intentional about that. Also, the second thing about it is I'm very clear if I see signs that a woman may be like that I just separate. Like, I've changed. That has changed in the last year. Whereas I would be a little bit more olive branchy,
me too.
I'm like,
been burned. Can't do it.
Yeah, I can't do it, because what I've realized is that all of us are just not the same.
Right.
And we don't roll the same.
And
so sisterhood is for me, it's in the heart. It's not in the organization, itself, or the institution. It's like, I care for you, Kimani. So I want to see you. I really want you to do well with this platform. That's a genuine feeling.
Yeah.
Everybody don't have that, and you have to be able to discern that very quickly.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I'm on it. Like, I can't work for people who don't want to see me win. And if that means that I have to pivot, that's just what I have to do, because my God says he won't leave me. And I know that he has me covered and my family covered. So I have to love myself that much. And my last thing I would say to women is, if you love yourself, show it. Not only, we tend to do these things where we go on trips, and my pastor talks about this too, go on trips, or, we pamper ourselves. But wellness is a day-to-day thing.
Absolutely.
It's not an event. It's a lifestyle. So if I believe in wellness and I want to treat myself great every day, then I have to be intentional about who I put myself around, who I'm plugging myself up to, be intentional about who I'm detaching myself from. I have to be intentional about that, because you could go on a trip and still come back feeling the same way you felt when you left.
Exactly.
Because you are around people who are soul killers and soul murderers.
Yes, that part. And if you're around those people in a soul-sucking job, it's all bad.
It's all that. I mean, you just come right back to it. And I'm like, I can't. So my life is a vacation. Does that make sense? And there are women, and I suggest to women, they need to plug into women who are actually living their lives every day like a vacation. And they're not and they got a retirement. It just comes a little different. And they work different. And I've kind of began to open my eyes up to seeing that, because that is the folks who are really living. They're just not existing. They're living. My therapist, on any given day, she's on somebody's island and she put that Zoom camera up and she gives the best therapy. But honey, you don't know where that is in the back. Her background is on fire because she is committed to living, right? And so we've got to change how we see work. Work doesn't have to be, it's got to be hard. I got to endure this toxic situation. No, you don't. Because guess what? If a lot of us leave, they won't have the places for us to come, and they won't have a job either. Now, that's something you have. Like my daughter says that if the teachers don't teach the children right and the children leave, the teachers won't have the same thing goes to the job. Now, for an 11-year-old, she got it. I I know we got it.
Right, right. And it's so interesting because when we think about it kind of circles back to how we started when we were talking about the importance of knowing your own self-worth and for other people to pour into you.
Yeah.
And that sisterhood is about when we are able to see and value the worth that we have within ourselves, we see it with one another and we pour into one another. So when
Absolutely.
we first talked, I didn't even know all her story. I'm just telling the audience. I didn't know her story, right? We
Yeah.
talked, I think, yesterday,
I know.
right? And I said, girl, you don't need to tell me the whole story. Just, but we already connected
That's right.
because we have a mutual respect for one another, a mutual value of one another.
That's
And
right.
then when you talk about, you know, how our families are impacted, my youngest son asked me when I was on a leave of absence, he said, are you going back to the job? And I said, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. He said, don't go back. Please don't go back. Right? Because the job becomes all consuming. And Dr. Watley, you said something too that really stood out to me. You
Mm.
said to recognize that a job is just something we do. A job is something
Mm.
we do to make money, to survive. It is not our defining part of our life. Okay. It does not define us. And I remember Stephanie Perry said she did a video about Black women leave hostile jobs, something like that. And she said that let us center ourselves, not our jobs.
That's
And
right.
then Dr. Nadia Lopez, I always love this quote. She said, why kill ourselves for jobs that would not mourn for us at our grave?
Right.
They'll keep moving on. Okay. So why are we doing that? We deserve better. A job
Yes.
is supposed to help you live. It's not supposed to
Yes.
take your life. It's not supposed to take your life. Okay.
Mm.
So just remember that. And then I want to say this before Dr. Watley, I'm gonna have you talk about what you're doing now, how people can contact you. But what
Yeah.
I was thinking about is how you are living your life now is how I am living my life now too. Sundays at 5 o'clock. I'm very intentional that I do this thing Sunday at 5 o'clock now
Yeah.
because that was the worst day of the week for me because I knew the next day I had to go back to work.
Oh
So
my
I was like, you
God.
know what? I'm a rechannel this and I'm gonna start having it Sundays at 5 o'clock, right? So I'm processing my healing. The other thing I want to say is you and I are now living our life like it's golden. So shout out to Jill Scott, right?
Shout out to Jill,
We are in
honey.
a golden, we are living our life like it's golden, okay? So so Dr. Wiley, if you can share, what are you doing now and how
Yeah.
can people contact you?
Well, now I work for Houghton Mifflin. I work for now it's called the Model Schools, the Center for Model Schools. We just changed the name at the Model Schools Conference last week. I'm the Director of Professional Learning for the entire Southeastern region. And
Yes.
also, I have my own company where I do diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings. I do trainings around trauma in schools and in organizations. And also, I just have written, and it will be coming out in November, a children's book on grief. I know. I'm so excited because it's just a labor of love. And I want therapists and psychologists and counselors to have tools to use. And it's called Where is My Teacher? It's a story about my daughter's teacher who passed away suddenly a couple of years
Oh,
ago, and they had a great relationship. And to show how the character kind of, which is my daughter, overcame that. And so there's a lot of great things that Dr. Watley is just like, I am now an adjunct professor at Anderson University in South Carolina in their leadership division. Now, I mean, these things have just come. Like, it's almost like God said, when you release that, I got some things
yes,
for you. If you just
yes,
let them go. I
yes.
remember last year praying, saying, God, remove anything that's keeping me from getting closer to you. And so now I have more time to go to church. I've been able to do Bible study. It is just my life is much more holistic now. And I
Yeah.
thank God for that experience too. I still do. I don't want to ever go through that again. I don't
Yes.
wish that on anybody. But
Me
where
either.
I am now, I'm grateful. I am humble. I am so
Yes.
grateful to be here on this
Yes.
side and to still be
Yes.
able to be a mom to my daughter, to be a daughter to my parents who are getting older, to be a
Oh,
sister,
yes.
to be an aunt, and to be a friend and a cousin. I'm still here. And every
Yes.
day, y'all, we got to fight for our lives. We have to fight because there are people who are trying to take us out.
Yep.
And I'm a living example of that. And it's been proven not only in the facts, but in the court of law, they were trying to take me down.
Wow. Wow. And you know what's so fascinating too is Dr. Watley, like you have like blossomed, right? You were already doing well, right? But now
Yeah,
you're blossoming
it's
even
like,
more.
I
Yes.
know.
And when we go through trauma many
Yeah.
times, or some of us, we go through trauma, we experience post-traumatic growth. So you're going at an even
Yes.
higher level than you
Yep.
were before. And
Yeah.
you're open to what is God revealing to you. I say that every morning, God, please lead me in a direction where I need to go. And I'm telling you, opportunities that I never would have thought
Never.
about, that never would have come my way if I was there at that other place, right?
I
So
know.
you can do so much better. And Dr. Wally, let me ask you this question, right?
Yeah.
I know your answer. I'm just gonna ask you anyway.
Go on, Kamani.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask you, right? Because I say this all the time, but I don't know if Black women believe me, right?
Okay.
But I'm gonna ask you because I know I say this.
Okay.
Do you regret leaving your job? Do you
No.
regret resigning? Okay, that's okay. And Dr. Wiley, is your life worse or better after you
It's
left your
so
job?
much better. Oh my God.
Okay, okay. So ladies, as you're watching this, eh, all the women I've talked to, and I just want you to see it in real time
Oh
how
yeah.
Dr. Wiley is saying she does not regret it. She
Uh-uh.
would not go back. Her
Uh-uh.
life is so much better. I would absolutely say the same. So, Dr. Wiley, how can people contact you if they want to access you?
Absolutely. So my website is very easy because I'm easy, just straight up Jillian.Watley@gmail.com. Or you can just look at Jillian Watley and Associates. You can go there. You can contact me on LinkedIn, Dr. Jillian Watley. It's the same. You will find me there. And I'd be glad to talk to you.
Awesome. So, everyone, thank you for being so patient. This was such a rich conversation. I didn't want to cut it short. So, if you had to leave, you know, you can watch the rest later, okay? But I want you to give a thumbs up to this video so that YouTube knows to share this video with other Black women in similar
Yep.
situations. And if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Lifting Us with Climb Consulting, Wellness Services. So I do want to read the chat because as I say before, I always want to give a voice to Black women
Yeah.
because we are often seen as invisible, right? So
Yeah.
you know, we have these talents and people like exploit them, right? Or we're hyper visible. So they say one little thing or blow something out of proportion. Okay. So I want to give a space for our community. So thank you for speaking on this issue.
Wow.
So many Black women are afraid. I love this topic, liberated. So grateful for the space to commiserate and to heal. Hi, Dr. Watley. Someone's giving me a shout out. This is so very true. I've experienced it firsthand. What wonderful. They just comment on what you're saying. What
Yeah.
was their motive for taking you down, Dr. Watley?
Can I answer that? I saw that.
Yes.
And thank you for that question. What my attorney and I just looked at when we looked at the evidence, it was race. They did not
Wow.
want to be under a Black woman, and that's really basically it. There was
Wow.
no other reason. It wasn't a skill set. Now they tried to say that, but it was never a skill set issue because I was constantly producing. It was
Mhm.
because I was a Black woman.
Wow.
And then I think Francesca Fox said something about did the judge award damages? So there's a second part to this case, and Kamani's going to have me come on once that is complete, and then I can fully talk about that part. So there will be a part two because
Yes.
that's coming. So yes, I will come back because I do want to share about that part that is kind of ongoing now. So the first case with the PSC has closed, and now we're doing a second case with a discrimination suit. Yes.
Yes. And I appreciate Dr. Watley even saying that she would come back because
Yeah.
I think that's a part that's missing in
Yeah.
terms of us hearing about what is it like to take legal action,
Yeah.
right? And to go through that process.
Yeah.
Let's see. She's a Black, confident, educated, and liberated woman. The sad thing is that nothing has changed, especially in education. I had to exit. It's such a toxic environment. Can I just say,
Yeah.
because I've worked for the school district and I've had so many Black women, Dr. Watley, who have worked in school districts across the country.
Yeah.
They are treacherous. I
Oh,
never knew how treacherous working for a school district can be, but it's treacherous.
and let me tell
Honestly, it
you
is.
this too, Kamani. I'll say
Huh.
this. If people think student achievement is because of a curriculum or something, it's a people issue.
Mm.
our children are not achieving because the people are their thoughts and their motives, and it's all off. And so yes,
There's some evil
one of my
people in there,
it's some
power tripping,
evil kid.
everything.
Yeah. One of my friends who's a U.S. attorney says she said, what are y'all doing? Because she gets more calls from people in education about cases.
Wow.
And she says, what is going on in education? Y'all with the kids.
I'm
She,
like, I'm thinking like, I thought I graduated from high school. How can I be back in high school? Like, what's going on here?
what
Right?
is
What's going on here?
going on?
Ridiculous. This is a good
Wow.
example of why we should leave toxic environments before it gets worse. Thanks for sharing. Hello, beautiful warrior woman. Peace and love. Um, what what type of evil mess? That's like the mafia in Atlanta of all places. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. There's so much nastiness and systemic racism in education. I'm currently working on my yes, good. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Mind body connection and stress. Yes. We talked about that. Okay. When you're pursuing equity education, often you become a target. Yes, I can completely agree to that.
Yes.
Preach, Dr. Watley. It's a beautiful thing when a Black woman chooses herself and takes the weight off her shoulders. We are not a beast of burden. No, we're not. They don't want people actively pursuing equity. If we did, we'd put a lot of people out of business. True. You are not
Uh-huh.
your job. It's not what you do. It's who you are, right? So
Right.
let's not have a job define you. A job does not define you, okay? To my 69-year-old Black woman ears, this conversation is a joy. I have 9 granddaughters that I'll be singing these to. Awesome. I love it.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, so we talked about epigenetics. So epigenetics, very briefly, field within genetics, it talks about when a parent has gone through some type of stress or trauma,
Yeah.
it can cause a change in how the DNA is read and transcribed. So a stress that Dr. Watley has experienced can
Yep.
be transmitted if she had more children,
That's
right?
right.
So in terms of a change in the DNA structure, okay? This is just what I needed to hear. God is trying to bring you to a higher place, fully
Oh,
exonerated, double exoneration. Oh, awesome. Okay, we have a super sticker from Jen Mack. Thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you because the super sticker is going to go for the master class replay that I did with
nice.
S. Emery Archer, who's the anti-HR lady. So this
Mm-hmm.
goes into the pot to
Yeah.
help another Black woman to access the master class, which is Save Yourself, Channel Your Inner Harriet, so you can leave that toxic hostile job with your sanity and your coins. So any donations that we receive will go to helping a Black woman or more than one Black woman to access the masterclass. So thank you so much.
That's so cool. I love
Um,
that, Kamani.
it's awesome.
These
Precious is
comments
so
are everything.
affirming. God delivered me and had someone reach out to me with an opportunity that made it easier to leave. Yes, when you're open, things are coming your way. The healing journey is
Mm-hmm.
so important. Talk about self-hatred. It's called, some of our Black sisters are still centering to whiteness. Yes, they are.
Yes, they
And I'll just
are.
say white supremacy. I'm so glad for this discussion right on time for me. I've been told that I was too happy by a supervisor. It's been a
What?
year since I left the toxic job, and my children are benefiting from having an emotionally stable mother. Thank you guys. Yes. That's
Thank God
crazy.
for these moms.
Girl, and when people say crazy stuff like that to you, just take note of that and be like, maybe I need to start making my exit. Okay.
There you
We
go.
talk about crabs in a barrel. White supremacy is so ingrained into the American psyche that it doesn't even need white people anymore. No, it doesn't. No,
Mm-mm.
it doesn't. Okay. Thank God for our friends and family. Yes, indeed. I
Mm.
learned we are really on our own. We can't really trust anyone except your close friends and family. Sometimes, but again, like Dr. Watley, like I didn't know Dr. Watley,
Uh-uh.
right?
But
But I'm
honey,
like,
we
she's my
forever
sister friend
connected
now.
now, Kamani. You
Yeah, I'm
can't
like,
get
she's my
rid of
sister
me.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
So,
don't,
so
I would just say be mindful. Like we just talked
be
about
mindful.
discernment.
Yeah, they
Discernment,
have
yes.
to.
The job is still a relationship that needs healing once it has ended. This world is so exhausting for Black women. Yes, it is. That's deep. Learning to forgive ourselves if we've been through toxic work relationships is something that I'd not heard of or considered for myself. Yes, it is so important. I do talk about that a lot more in the masterclass if you want to
Oh,
access that, and
wow.
I'll have that in the description section. In general, we don't really have any support. Having gone to an HBCU doesn't prevent one from creating a toxic environment. I had a former boss who attended an HBCU and created a
Mm.
toxic environment. Yes, that's true,
Correct.
right? The hope is that if you go to HBCU, that you are more open to learning more about your history and being
Right.
grounded in your history. But you got insecure people everywhere,
You
unfortunately,
sure
right?
do.
Yes, it's in the heart. Self-love, it's not the same as self-adoration. Believe it, my corporate team, for example, Black women was Xing all VPs to block my promotions. Oh, that's
My
terrible.
gosh. Yeah.
That's just terrible, right? Let's see. The VPS, for example, white man told me while laughing at them, Black men were threatening me to them or else white men travel to stop. This is crazy. Ladies, you've inspired me. People
Mm.
forget school systems are very political. They are. They are so messy and
Woo!
catty. Ah, yes,
Oh,
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great discussion. I'm aligned with my journey of being liberated. Yes. Thank you for standing up and being a great role model. People issue, you better say it. I'm here with you, Jill. Black Girl Magic. We are on the rise. Dr. Watley, thank you. New subscriber. I'm late, but I'll watch replay. Thank you so much for subscribing. Yes, it was exactly that race, managing a diverse team, but the Black person was the only problematic nationwide. I had to hire a backup team to clean up the sabotage. Oh, it's a mess,
woo!
right?
Jesus.
So,
I mean, Lord. I
girl,
mean, and it
right?
takes so much energy. Like when I want to give a shout out to, I see some people like my friends who are here. I see some of my students. I also see one of the former board members. She's a ride or die. Like she knows what I went through.
Yes,
But to see like I don't even understand sometimes how people have time to even create this stuff. I'm like, even in school systems, like if you stay focused on doing what's right for the kids, you don't have
right.
time to take nobody down.
But you know what? But you know what? It just shows you they don't have a life,
They
right?
don't,
So
you
you
can't.
are so filled with self misery, and
Oh
the
my
job
God.
defines you, and you're power tripping so much.
Yeah.
That's how you can engage it because you don't have a life, right? So to
I
those people, get some help, and for real, go to therapy.
please.
For real, I did a whole video about it was an open letter to workplace bullies. Okay, so
Wow.
if you were
Yeah.
watching this and you were a bully, watch that. Okay. So in closing, I just want to say Dr. Watley, I knew it was going to be dope. I knew it was. I knew it was.
Girl,
I told
we
her earlier, I said, girl, I got to get my popcorn ready for you, right? I don't got the popcorn, but it was still, I still got a lot out of it, right? Didn't have the popcorn. But I
oh,
just want to share with you that I appreciate how vulnerable and transparent you were and sharing your story and also giving words of wisdom to other Black women who
thank
might be in a similar situation. So I'm so full of gratitude to you.
thank
You
you.
are my sister now,
Yes, you
right?
are. We're
And
yes.
so you'll be coming back to talk
Yeah.
about your journey. And I will also love for you to come back and talk about your book.
Oh
Okay?
yeah. Yes,
Yes.
yes. I would love
Yes,
to.
yes,
Oh.
yes, yes. So everyone, we are signing off. Again, give this video a thumbs up so that YouTube knows how to read the algorithm. And then the other thing is please subscribe to this channel, Lifting Us with Clown Consulting. And let me say this. We talked about sisterhood.
Yeah.
I, and you know this, as I talk about my healing journey on this YouTube channel,
Mhm.
I'm lifting as many sisters as I can to get out of a toxic job and heal, right? So I'm lifting you. I hope to lift you. Let me lift you, okay? So I'm
Yeah.
lifting you, but I'm also asking you, Black women, as you're watching this video, that you also lift other Black women, that you
That's
also
right.
help support her healing, that you're not stepping on her neck, you're not kicking her while she's down, okay? That you are lifting her up as well. The things
Mm-hmm.
that you could do to lift her up, one, is that you can give her support.
That's
Okay.
right.
Two is that you can share this video with her. And three, if she's in a toxic job and she wants to get out and she's trying to figure out how to save her sanity and her coins, you can tell her
Mm-hmm.
about the masterclass, which is in the
That's
description
right.
section. Okay. So, everyone, I will see you later. Thank you again, Dr. Watley,
Thank you for
and
having me.
have a good rest of your day, everybody. Bye.
Bye.